In late May 1935, the Pride of France set out on her maiden voyage from Le Havre.
The Normandie, giant luxury liner of all the seas, carrying 3,000 souls, is a veritable floating city. The world has waited for this moment, and the question asked again and again is, will this 80,000-ton streamlined giant wrest the blue ribbon of the Atlantic from the German liner Bremen?
The French line said in 1935, we are definitely not going for the blue ribbon. It's not in the making. We'll do it later on. They would not admit to it for fearing something mechanically could backfire.
As Normandy sailed for New York, she carried the hopes of her countrymen that she'd be the first French ship to win the blue ribbon of the Atlantic. For the next 4 days, Normandy became the floating headquarters of Parisian society. In the favorable sailing conditions, Normandy averaged almost 29 knots and immediately proved herself a thoroughbred. The blue ribbon was hers for the taking.
When Normandy came into the port of New York for the first time in June of 1935, every window, every building, every roof is black with people.
With the fireboats leading the reception, New York Harbor roars, toots, whistles, and shrieks a pandemonium of welcome. All records shattered as the Normandy makes the crossing in 4 days, 3 hours, and 14 minutes. Greatest of liners on the most acclaimed maiden voyage in the history of navigation.
Well, of course, she captured the blue ribbon on her maiden voyage, and everyone was given a bronze medallion, blue ribbon Normandy, and it said Made in France, so they knew all along they were going to try for it.
"12 months later, with her fitting out complete, the Queen Mary was ready to challenge her French rival. The liner's hotel-like interiors were modern, but not too modern. Elegant, but not gaudy. But the reaction of the British critics was mixed. In the opinion of one London columnist, the design of her public rooms, her bars and her restaurants seemed to have been aimed at dollar millionaires from the Midwest of America and their opposite numbers in England, who claim that where there's muck, there's money. But such criticisms did little to dampen the enthusiasm of Englishmen who looked upon their new maritime prodigy with pride touched with awe. And even the Queen, who gave the ship her name, was privately relieved.
She and about 19 members of the royal family went down to Southampton to see the fitted out, finished Queen Mary. All very Art Deco and, well, light years away from what the old Queen liked, but nonetheless she toured it with interest. She went back that night to Windsor Castle and she wrote, "Toured the new Queen Mary today, not as bad as I expected."
The day of her maiden voyage had arrived, and no other ship in British maritime history seemed so important to the nation's prestige.
At 4 o'clock she sailed. About 3 o'clock they asked me to take a message over to the head office ashore. And I thought, well, normally you just go down the gangway, cross. I think it took me nearly an hour to get through the crowd. You had to push your way through, and everybody was pulling at you like a pop star, you know. They didn't know about pop stars then. They were tugging at you. Can I have a button? They were trying to pull your buttons. That's how it went, you know, really. It was quite a thing.
Hearts will glow with admiration when our new liner leaves the quay, and a name loved by the nation will give her charm and dignity. British Labour gave its skill.
As the Queen Mary set out on her maiden voyage to New York, the fog of depression that had blanketed Britain for more than 5 years seemed to lift.
I booked my trip for the USA.